Okay, now you are listening. Okay, so let's resume. Um, Today we are going to talk about loopers, how we can use them, uh, and we are going to pick from the project that we've made on the last webinar that was about printing. If you remember, in the last project.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rogério. I just wanted to tell everyone that if you have any question regarding this webinar, so during the session, you're free to ask everything in the chat, and in the end of the session, we will answer to all the questions. Basically, like we did in the other sessions. I believe that almost all of you guys were present, so you already know the rules. Thank you. Go, Rogério.
I'm going to pick up with the project we made on the previous webinar. On the previous webinar, we were talking about reports, how to print using Kalipso. We were using something like this. We've created a report. We added some content. At this moment, on the previous webinar, we've also added some images and so on. So we are going to use that again, just to simplify and to make this presentation quicker, so that it's not so boring as it could be. So since now we are going to start, I simply renamed the project. Instead of reports, I rename it to loopers. And what I did here, if you remember on the previous project, on the previous webinar, I mean, is that I was importing something. So let me see what we did. By the way, let Microsoft is doing its magic. Oh, no problem. Let's go back again. Yeah,
Quite some technical difficulties today, but well, we are managing it.
yes, we have Microsoft to thank for. Uh, so let's resume entering. A good thing is that we can recover it with easily. So on this form, we were importing a file containing some data. Just to give a quick overview, it's here. Where is it? It's here. We have some data, some books, its code, and so on. So we're importing it using file import to table action. Then I added here some other columns to import from that file, and then we've used a table to show those contents. So if we test it now, and here is the point where we left before. Let me see, just changing this one, set as first form. This is what we've done on the previous. So as you can see here, we are presenting the data on a table, and sometimes this is the thing that suits the purpose, and sometimes it is enough just to present text. But using loopers, you can customize the presentation of your data. You can fully utilize the layout. You can customize everything on a looper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply delete all of this, and now I'm going to replace this with a looper. The looper object is this one. I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm just going to resize it. And now we have here almost the entire form with a looper object. And as you can see, this gray area is where the looper is going to repeat one line per each result returned. So we are going to feed data to this looper from a table, the table that already has the contents here. So now what we are going to do is simply lay out all the controls that we need to be presented. So for instance, I'm going to add here an image to the layout, image 1. This is where the image is going to be. I'm going to add a label to contain the title of the book. Label title, something like this. Word wrap. Okay. Probably we'll need to do some adjustments later, but no problem. For instance, here I can make it bold. I'm going to add another label to present the author. For instance, here, author, something like this. And then another label, maybe for the quantity. Quantity. Okay. So now we have here something already laid out. I'm just going to frame it just to see, have a general idea. Okay. Now we need to connect all of these controls to a database table. Since we've already have the table here and imported, I'm going to double click the looper, go to its contents, to the tables, and then I'm going to start creating links. A looper link basically is how we connect any property of a given object to a column on a database table or an SQL query. So here I'm going to select books, the title, and then I'm going to assign it to the title. We could put it on the value property, or if you want to be more precise, we can put it on the text. So title, author, text again, and then the quantity. I believe is this text. Okay. So now we have all the properties properly assigned. Let's save it. And now we need to tell Kalipso to the application when we want for this looper to refresh its contents. So I'm going to go to the form actions page, and here, since I already have this refresh to the table, I'm just going to change it to the looper that we have now. Okay, so now let's try it. Okay. As you can see, we have here, maybe okay, so I've not linked properly the image. So where is it? It's not the quantity to the label quantity. And also, since I forgot, I'm going to add the image to it also. So it's photo, image to the value. And now, as you can see, we are going to see the looper with all its contents presented. Okay. So everything it's here more or less presented. Just going to test it also on Android device in order for you to see that we actually the result is actually the same. So let me see. Okay, someone gave me a broken cable, but at a later point we are going to show it to you. So this is a good example to display contents using loopers. Uh, Here we are just linking contents directly to a property of an object in a looper. By the way, this image, if we look at the database table, we can see that there are no images stored on that database. Uh, we only see here, we are only telling what's the file name that we want to present, meaning that if we want to actually show these images, uh, we need to add it by importing, downloading the images to a specific location on our application. If we go to the simulator where the application is running, as you can see, we have all the images laid out on our application folder, so that Kalipso can easily fetch for those images. If this is a resource that will be always used and always sent to the application, uh, meaning they can be static content, there is a way to send directly with the application, either on an update or something else, where you can put the files there. And if you want to do that, you can simply use this folder, which is called files to send, which is also created when you make a new project, and you just need to simply put the images here as I've made with the file and so on. So here we are presenting the looper. I'm just going to try again to show it to you on an Android, for instance. Okay, and share and view. Okay, now we have the application, and then we are going to send it here. Okay. Hold on a minute. Can put here. Okay, as you can see, we have now all the controls listed. So we can also do another thing, make this to the right, font a little bit bigger, here and here, like that. We can also customize its fonts and so on. Now, what we can do also with loopers. Loopers are not only for visualization, we can also interact with loopers. For instance, if we wanted, we can check something on that specific book. For instance, here, if I wanted to get directly a value that is stored on this looper, namely its price, I could simply do a get property, and select the value from, in this case, the quantity, I mean, and select the text and save it somewhere. In this case, I'm going to save it to a temporary variable, dv quantity. Okay. So remember here, I can also select the index of the looper. If I put here a 0, it will mean selected value like what is written here. Okay, and then I could simply message box quantity something like this. Okay, so in this case, if we test it again, I can get the exact value from the looper. So quantity 1, quantity 5, as what's listed here, 6, and so on. Another thing we can do on a looper is, for instance, place something and taking advantage of the objects itself. All the objects, apart from its value and other properties, we have here a property called hidden value. And this can be useful to hide and to store some information hidden from the user, where then that you later can access that value and use it for other things. For instance, here I could uh, link here it's called the ISBN, and at a later point I could simply get it here. So get property from the image, I could get its hidden value, rename. This way I can get something that is already stored on a looper, so we don't need to make a query to somewhere else. I can directly look for it on the looper. Another thing that we can actually see here, let me put this again on test, is the fact that although I've added the actions on the click event of the looper, Kalipso rightfully didn't made the looper to behave on all the objects. Only if I click outside of a given object is where the click event of the looper is activated. If I click on top of the image, nothing happens, only on other around. If I intend to make all of the objects anywhere I click on the looper, depending on the object that is clicked, to run that event, I could simply go to that event, the click from that object, and then ask it to run the event from the looper. Something like this. I could go through all of them and do something like this. So if I test this again, whenever independently from where I click, I have the option here, so I can use it. Another thing interesting about the looper is the fact that we can also get how many lines are on the looper, how many items are on the looper. This can be good, for instance, to uh, iterate over the entire looper to get something, or to collect which item is checked or something else. We could make a multi-selection table using the looper, and then go through all of the lines of the table and see which cells have the checkbox enabled. We can do that using the action get item count. This action is only available to the looper object. It doesn't exist on the table, because on the table control we can do that in other ways. So quantity we items. Okay, get item count. And now we are getting several things from the looper. Another thing we can do on the looper is to verify something whenever a line is added. So the looper provides us an event called item madethe, where we can use it to, for instance, change a color of a font or something else, or perform some calculations and so on. So what we can do here is, for instance, get item added. If we can do, let me see, I'm going to create here a value for the quantity. If quantity is greater, is lesser, I mean, than maybe 2, I can do something. So, but for that, I need to get the quantity. So I'm going to put it here. Okay. So what I can do is set property to the, maybe the title, and then I can put the font color maybe to red. Okay. And now every time an item has the quantity lesser than 2, it becomes red. So as you can see here, we can see that all the items that have only 1 are colored in red. But there is a simple problem here. I'm just going to this CSV. I'm going to edit something here. 10, 1. I'm just going to place here 100. And now I'm going to import it again and test it. Okay, lesser than 2. Let me change this again. I believe the quantity is this one. Okay, 6. 0. Okay, maybe this will suit. Let me see if I can change this. Just trying to show you something that is happening, that can happen. Okay, here is the problem that we are seeing. Although the item has a 100 as a quantity, we are seeing it as red, and in fact, or 10 and so on. What I mean by that is this is not the desired result. We only want to put red on the items that have only 1, but Kalipso did this because of this. Everything that is stored on the looper is a text. So here the comparison will be as a text comparison, because by default Kalipso on this comparison will take the value from the first operand to assume the type of comparison. In Kalipso we have 2 types of values. We have the numerics and then we have the strings. So in this case we have here a string and it will be compared with another string. In order to avoid that, I could simply invert this comparison quantity and remove this. Now we have the problem solved. Okay, so here now we have the actual thing corrected. As you can see, this process is sometimes it's good enough if we have 10, 12, 13 items, but it could take some time. In order to optimize this, you can do another thing, which is to, instead of going through every one of the items and checking them, I can do that directly from the SQL that is feeding the looper. So what I can do here, I can convert this to SQL Advanced. Okay. Now we have the same result, but as you can see here, we are going to, each index will have the results from each column here. And now what we can do is add another column, case when quantity is lesser than 2, then I will going to put here the color, the red, RGB, end. And now I'm going to link here another column to the title and then to the font color. We can test if this is working. Okay, let's go here to the table, browse data, paste it. And as you can see here, now we have all the results. I'm going to simplify this and as color. Okay, and now we will have the same effect, but this time we won't take so much time to iterate over all the looper. Okay, so this is the same result. And this is the simple example on how we can use loopers. Another one is to create scrolling areas. Imagine you have a content where you can add text and other elements that cannot fit the entire screen, and then you want for it to be scroller, a scrolling area, but you want to maintain a set of controls. I'm just going to create here another form and doing an example about that. Imagine that you have this text. If you wanted to enable scrolling, you could simply do something like this. So 800. Now you will have a scrolling form and everything would scroll. Just going to close the form here and make, for instance, this control to open that form. Show form. Okay. What you can do instead of this, we could simply add a looper here with all of this filled out. By the way, you can test it right now. It's better to test it on an Android to see the effect. Okay, we have it now here. If we go to this form, as you can see, all the form scrolls, right? If we want to make a scrollable area, we could simply, I'm just going to place here a label just to understand text 1, and then another here, and another one there. Oh, 3, and then another label here. It's here. As you can see, now we have the entire looper. What we can do now is shorten the width of this looper, disable the scroll, and now, as you can see, we will be creating something like this, right? If we test this now, nothing would happen. As you can see, nothing is available. We need to actually give something, create a line or something, because the looper is not linked to anything. What we can do here now is looper add line, and next time we try, we will have the looper created with the scrolling area, right? I'm just going to customize it a little bit further. Test 1, test 2. Okay. If we test it on the device, we will see the exact same effect. So whenever you have content that cannot fit on a single form or on the entire screen, you can do this to allow the looper to make it scroll. So as you can see, we are scrolling down and up, but the title bar is still there. And if we wanted, we could shorten the video, the looper, and make some buttons also available here. So we could put here some text buttons and so on. So let's do it here. As you can see it, of course it went to the, okay, where is it? Text button. Could do something, for instance, something like this. Okay, so this is one of the other uses that we can do with loopers. And by the way, if we wanted, we could also create a dynamic menu. So for each item that we wanted to create, we could also make something like this with a line and feeding dynamically to create buttons to open different different forms, different features on Kalipso. And I believe that with this, I conclude the presentation. If you have some questions, feel free to ask. I believe this is a pretty comprehensive look on loopers. We did not do all the things. We didn't explore, but in terms of layouts, of course, I don't have the design skills to create here something fancy and with the time constraints that we have now. But basically, I think this will serve to show you what we can do, what can be done with loopers.
Thank you very much, Rogério. We have some questions here. For now, we have 6 questions. and we will start with the first one, which is how to make it appear the limits for each control, so the boxes surrounding it.
Okay, we can make the boxes appear on the edit, frame and unframe controls. So on this form, you can frame and unframe. Basically this.
Great, thank you. Can you display images from inside the database? So images in the database, for example, the customer has 400 images stored in SQL.
Kalipso doesn't support binary formats on databases. What you could do is store them on the base64 format. You would have to encode the images as a text as a written text in base64, and then you could either download them one by one, make a select, download all the images, and then use them when presenting the looper. But basically that's the only option, at least for now.
Thank you very much. We proceed for the third question. Can you show color change for items in stock or out of stock? Color change. Let's say that you have items that you have in stock and items that you have out of stock. You can show the color change?
Yes, that's actually what I did on this demo. If you look here, what I've done was turn the font to red whenever the item was only one. But as you can see here, and I did it in two ways. One of them was directly in SQL. When I search, when I made the quantity was lesser than 2, and I also did it here, but I'm not using it now because this option normally is faster. And then I linked this column that I generated with this index.
Thank you, Rogério. I didn't realize that part has been made. Well, we might have other questions but well, it's always good to remember. So fourth question, can we edit that data direct in Looper and post it?
Yes, you can, but normally it's not. You have to take some precautions, but yes, you can. You can actually add here an input box and write here whenever you want. Then you would have to to perform the required actions to make these changes reflect either on the database or some location somewhere else. But if we make this here, if I test this, you will see that on every looper line you will have an input box where you can write wherever you want, and then you can perform actions on that. So here now I can write it here, 1 2 3 3 4 5, and now we have. Then when we do something else, we can use these values either to. Normally this is a good use for this is when you are creating something like a shopping cart. You can put that the names directly, the quantity. So yes, you can do something like this, of course.
Do minus numbers cause a problem?
I don't think so, because they on the looper they are treated as texts. So whenever you perform some calculations, you have to convert that to a value. By the way, what I did what I've done here, in this case, when I simply reverted the condition, what I could do was to also use the function val to convert this or to obtain only the text part from that variable or that control.
Thank you, Rogério. The next question, can you create controls in the looper at runtime or change the properties of existing controls in the looper?
Yes, you can change properties on the existing controls. As you've seen here in this example, I changed dynamically the colors of this label. So, but change or add the controls dynamically, I don't think it's possible. Maybe you can add if you know that they will be needed. You can put them there and then make them hidden, and whenever they are needed, you can unhide them.
Thank you very much. We have two questions left. Can you show a looper where the user and update the KTI quantity? I think it's quantity. Yeah, it's quantity probably. Yeah.
Uh, yes, basically is this. So you could, for instance, here use this to update the quantity. I can use something like this to I'm going to click here to update. So something like this. I can add here a text button, an image button, an OK, for instance. I'm going to place it here. 12 by 12, something like this. Okay. Now I can do, whenever I click this, I will get the property from get property. If you remember, I have on the hidden value the ISBN, so I can use that. ISBN. Okay. From the image, I believe is this one. Just going to confirm it. This is image one. Okay, so it's image one. And then we can also get the property from that input, and then the value to the quantity. Okay, and then I can just do an update to the quantity with the value I've gotten from the looper, where ISBN equals ISBN. Okay, then I can either change the property directly here without property of the label quantity with the value from the one that I've obtained from the looper. This is to spare the need to refresh all the entire looper. So we can test it now. 100, 2. Now we have 2, and if we go to the database, we also have 2. So I think it's what you want. This is a simple example for that.
Great. I think it was a really useful example. Thanks, Rogério. We go for the last question, at least for now. And in this question, actually, it's more of ask for an example. If you can show us a looper inside another looper.
Whoa, that's a tough one. When using forms on this version of Kalipso, we cannot do that at the moment. What you could do to try to resemble a looper when you create inside another looper is to basically, let me see here. I'm just going to create here another form. Imagine that you have, I'm just going to create a looper here. Okay. Imagine that you have something like this, where you have some controls, something here, for instance, the client name, the address, and then you would have all the products that you need for them. What you could do here, since we cannot host another looper inside a looper, I believe that's still the case. What I normally suggest to do is to try to figure out what is the minimum height and place all the controls on a single line, and then make them appear whenever another thing is changed. We have I have a sample, but this is normally a more complex approach to having. The best way would be for you to maybe have build a table with all those properties, something like you have here a label and so on. Normally what we do is to control the visualization. We use the planes for that. Remember, the looper is on plane 0 and the other controls are on different planes, but doesn't matter, they will appear on all the planes. Okay, label plane 2, plane 0, plane 1, plane 2. Okay, so we have something like this. Every type of line will have them. We can do that. And then on the looper, on the table or something else, we would link the visibility of the level 1, level 2, and then generate a query to dynamically show these labels. This is a complex topic, so in order for not to go too much deep on this type of scenario, maybe I'll send a sample doing something like that, because it's quite a complex topic.
So, as Rogério said, we will send you a sample regarding this subject. So a looper inside another looper. We have another question, Rogério. You showed us a vertical looper, so you could scroll it vertically. Can you show us an example of scrolling horizontally? How to make it?
Yes, it's simple as going to the looper properties and change the orientation from vertical to horizontal. You can actually tell how many rows you want for it to have. If you want to make it horizontal, I'm going to use this one, so it don't have the intended effect, but you will see actually how it's going to work out. So as you can see here, I have the looper, and then I can scroll it left and right. Simple as that.
Great, thank you very much. Great demonstration. Um, I think we will wait 1 minute more to see if someone else has more questions, and if not, we will end the session. So think about the last questions. So I think there are no more questions. As promised in the last email we sent you, we will send an exclusive sample to all of you who were here with us. Rogério will show you right away the sample. It's this sample, which is also related with loopers and not just that. Rogério, you can explain them.
Okay, basically, I have had over the time people request me how could if in Kalipso there is a way to show a date picker, a calendar. Uh, Although Kalipso natively doesn't provide that type of component, it only provides a date picker as a keyboard, as a way to enter, to choose a date. Uh, if you if we look to the looper subject, we could easily do something that resembles a calendar. Uh, During this time, I've been making a sample just to show it to you. As you can see here, I have a looper laid out. Uh, it has some controls, date, ID, and so on. Uh, and what I do here, of course, on the open form, I define some variables, the name, the month, and so on. I'm also preparing it to open on a specific date if I want it. Then what I need to do on the looper is generate a query that could create me all the days to fill that square something. So I'm going to copy this uh, to another one. Let me just go here on the simulator. Let's open here SQL. Uh, let's create here a new editor. Okay. Now what I do here, I believe this is not okay. This is actually what's being run. Instead, I just made this here. So if I run this, you can see that I have uh, all the things that I need to create a loop. I have the days to be presented. I created a column to tell me if it's today or not. Something like this. Of course, this date was yesterday, so of course nothing here is from today. To tell if this is the current month, just to change its colors and so on. So let's do, since this is SQLite, it's a complex query. I'm not going to bother explaining all of this because uh, it, here we only need the Kalipso part. So if we test it now, as you can see, it will create a calendar where we can show the date. So as you can see, and then we can go around, pick another, and of course you could return the values from that. So we can, as you can see, I have the something like this. So this is another use of loopers. So you have it horizontal, and it's not scrolling, by the way. It only has the records, but I think it's a good sample that I'm going to send you to all the attendees from today.
Thank you, Rogerio. Let's not forget that we still need to send to the people from the last webinar the second sample about Bluetooth printers. You remember? Okay. We have one last question to finalize. If we can make the swipe gesture inside the looper.
At the moment, Kalipso doesn't support those gestures. We are on the works to implement that. Maybe in the next version, we'll have those events for you to act upon.
And that's all. Thank you very much for watching again. We will send you the sample, so this calendar sample, also the sample regarding the looper, so the first one. And for the ones who were in the previous webinar, we will also send you the sample about the Bluetooth printers. If you didn't watch the last webinar, you can always go on YouTube, and we have it there, or on our website on the section webinars, and you can check it there. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.